Oh. That's not what I meant to do. Trying to fix my camera real quick. Because it's being dumb.
I can't remember what to do.
You'll get a notification, sorry.
You're good.
Oh. I'm genuinely surprised that worked. Oh my god. Yeah, it's gotta be. This camera, look, for less than $100, this camera's actually pretty damn good. Talking about my my webcam.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
The lock is broken.
The lock is broken.
Find the old bus.
A bus?
At 0 hour, a bus crashed into the hospital.
Give my goddamn arrow back, son of a bitch.
You can use it to get inside.
Since no one could get in, there's a good chance there'll be some markers left.
I do have to get used to playing video games again. It's been so fucking long. Like, legitimately, I don't play video games much anymore.
I am trying to figure out why I am very, very fucking fast.
Well, also remember how we edited our game?
No, you don't get it. I have no mods or nothing.
Oh. I don't know then.
Oh, I believe it's because of boost, because once you get like the legendary levels and shit, I believe it might be that.
Scared the shit out of me, Hacken? Is that how you say his name? I keep wanting to call him Harkon.
It's Harkon.
How the fuck do I get up there? Oh, damn, I'm stupid. That's why. Or that's how I mean. I'll put my weapon up. They're putting up the weapon. Oh! I threw something.
Just a little more. We don't have much time. Stay close to me.
And the most OP shit, the crossbow.
Hell yeah.
You know how to open locks?
Sure. Turn the key.
What if you don't have a key?
Hakon, I've traveled thousands of kilometers. You think doors are a problem for me?
Okay, just checking. I think this room should have all the
MK!
Maestro.
Hi, love.
I can't remember what I was doing.
You can make lockpicks out of that.
Yeah, it's called Dying Light. You're not supposed to die. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. Anyway. I forgot how to craft. And Christopher is here. We're not together in game, unfortunately, not yet. I have to get past this place. The zombie game. Have you ever actually seen anything about Dying Light? Do I need to explain what the game is? Because I'm more than happy to. Me and Chris, when the first Dying Light came out, it came out on my birthday. And I remember... You've never seen this game? Oh my god, girl, are you in for a fucking treat? Hold on, man, because I gotta tell you. Okay, so Dying Light is a game about, like, you know, zombie outbreak, virus, shit. The first game is really good, and it's focused on an island and all this stuff, whatever. This game is, like, many years in the future and stuff. You play as a different person. And, I think our name is Aiden in this one. The first one, we're Kyle Crane. And this one is, you're all infected. But the longer you stay in the dark, correct me if I'm wrong. I kind of skipped over the tutorial this time because I've played it once through. Like, I played like about maybe a quarter of the way through, and then I stopped, and then now we're replaying it. So we're starting from the beginning again. I kind of forgot a little bit, but we'll figure it out. But yes, this game is really fucking good, and I love this game. The jump button is the shoulder button. It's so fucked up. And I remember the first time me and him played it, we're both like, what the fuck is going on? Also, there's an ad break coming, and I'm sorry. But I don't want people to have to join to 17 different fucking ads. Oh my god, Hakon.
Stuff.
I had no other choice. Was forced to know my
We're also known
stuff.
as a pilgrim, which is like somebody that traveled a lot and did a lot of things. But in this place,
What the hell?
yeah, we get these bracelet things, and it's like you'll see on his wrist that green. That's how close you are to turning. So it's a little wild. Also, when Chris joins the game, he's gonna be super fucking powerful because he's playing with his finished character that he has over 100 hours on, and you know, come on, climb. So you don't. No, I don't want to get turned. In this case, getting turned is bad. Come on, Hakon, stop being a pussy.
Some help.
Here you go.
Oh, I thought I was gonna have to do a QT.
That won't work.
I think here we're trying to get a bracelet. I believe we're trying to get the bracelet that figures out if how close you are to turning. I believe that's what this is.
Ducks are
Yep.
in front of us. Keep quiet.
I'll have to wait till after the ad stops. It's like is it like a mood ring from Claire's? Girl, you a fucking mess. I love you. Oh my god. Also, ads are about to start. I think I already said that. I'm a little distracted at the moment because I hear children. Oh, and he's having flashbacks, by the way. That's his sister? Question mark?
Yeah.
That's a bad idea, Mia.
Incoming ad break.
If it was a good one, it wouldn't be fun.
I don't have a clue what I am doing.
Waiting for me
Doing?
to get done.
Mia, you're on the wall.
Stop talking and give me your hand.
Give me your hand. She talks like, what's it? Miss Fortune?
Yeah.
Aiden,
MK says, ah, the ads, I'm dying.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Literally.
sure? Talk to me.
My head's spinning. I've been like this. I've been...
This hospital. I've been in one like this before.
A GRE facility. Well, there are a few of them around the city.
I'm having these memories. The person I'm looking for is Mia. She's my sister. There was a guy here named Waltz. I don't know. It's all mixed up in my head.
You suppressed the memory. Like I did of my third wife.
Of my third
I'm
wife.
sure the infection ain't helping. Chin up. We'll find the marker and clear out. Let's go.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Hakon, I don't like him. Like, he's so nice, but he's a fucking prick. Are y'all back yet? I think you're back. You're back? Are you back? I think you're back. Okay, you lived. I'm so happy. So, you'll see as the game progresses, we're looking for our sister named Mia, and we had grown up in, GRE is a government thing in this game. And, there are facilities that did things to people. And that's as much as I'll say, because we're gonna get, it shows it in the, as we progress. Oh, these motherfuckers! The sleepy one, Chris. When they're in the dark and they're all asleep.
Beauties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta creep around, try to break the necks.
And we all know about how how good I am about this. I like that I ducked under that. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. I mean, I could kill him, but... Damn, bitches, that looked like that hurt. That looks like that hurt. Oh. Oh my god, that was my fucking phone just vibrated and it sounded like
I
it farted.
know.
That just scared the dog shit. Ah! God damn it! Fucking asshole. Scared me.
Shelby, you don't understand.
What?
Okay, you know how I could damn throw them, you know, they try to dodge or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm literally throwing them across the map.
Christopher.
I'm just yeeting them in the air.
I swear to God. I cannot throw something. I think I can throw stuff.
ZZZZ.
Pando, now is not the time.
Fuck you, dog.
Fuck you, bitch.
I threw him and he desynced.
Chris. Stop eating them at the sound of fuck. Spyro, you need to wake the fuck up. This is... I can hear him. Also, I've lost a fuck ton of weight, y'all. I know have seen the pictures I posted on Discord. And I didn't realize how much it was. Oh, there he is. Okay, fuck you guys. Fuck you bitches. Suck my dick. Anyway.
I forgot landmines.
What'd you say?
I have landmines.
Why do you have mines?
What about that?
Chemicals. Nasty shit. When they lost control of the virus, the GRE
That's
started
okay.
spraying the
It's
whole
been like 2
city
years
with
since I
that
played
fluid.
this, so I can't remember any fucking things. Now I got landmines.
Yeah, we gotta get through this. I have to get through this, and then I can have Christopher joining us. Eventually. Hey, can I get some soda? Can I get some soda?
No.
Oh yeah, just make the loudest noise ever known to fucking man. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
So, this guy you told me about,
Let me double check my CPU temperature.
Yes.
why did you mention him?
Because I remember he was doing some kind of experiment.
He wasn't the only one doing
Yeah,
that.
47, that's not bad.
Cities like Villador, with walls cut off from the rest of the world. Many people
Yep.
were working toward a vaccine, Aiden. But, well, the world is full of shitheads.
Also, this game has choices. So... fun shit. Oh, and the reason we're not turning into a zombie now is because he gave us an inhibitor. Which, like, you know, inhibits.
Alright.
It does stuff.
He just yeets himself like a fucking frog. You ever seen that video of that frog that just yeets itself off the balcony and kills itself? That's what he just looked like.
Stable.
Literally, he just fucking yeets himself. Like a fucking frog.
I can't take this anymore.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah, 2 people jumping on a fucking elevator. And y'all think that's a good idea in a dilapidated building?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's too old. He's got gray in his hair. His ankles would have snapped. And now the volatiles are awake. That's great. Volatiles wake up in the middle of the night. Also, how is the sound quality? Is it? Can you hear Chris well? Can you hear me well? Can you hear the game well?
No, nobody hears me.
something OSHA violations. 1000%.
Sure, just give me a sec.
Oh, if you think it's a violation now, just wait. I'm about to make the workers' comp go in a fucking circle.
Literally. The game could come up a little bit. Chris, you are audible. Okay. She talking, you bitch.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I was sitting there shooting people. What?
I said she said you're audible. Bitch.
Yay!
I added
That's
the
not a
bitch
good
part.
thing.
I may have added the aggressive. Wait.
Come on.
Oh.
Show me what you...
Shut up, Park on. Tell Chris I said hi, bitch. Smiley face. We're corrupting her.
Hola!
Inhibitors.
Why
What the
you
fuck?
running from me? Why you running from me?
It's this bitch. This is why I stopped playing fucking Assassin's Creed. Suck my dick.
Green
Come here.
crates. Inhibitors should be inside. If you take another...
Then why the fuck did I just climb this thing if you want me to go down? This game makes me angry already. Please excuse my temper tantrum. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Fuck you. Kick that bitch. Kick that bitch. Also, updates on my back. I am 80% better? 70 maybe? I can stand for like 3 hours at work without needing to sit down, but after that I need to sit down. I keep hitting that fucking button. Currently sitting on a heating pad, have ibuprofen and a muscle relaxer, but like, hey, I was in 10 out of 10 pain. I don't remember anything leading up to the concert. I remember the concert, and that was it. So, see, hey, so that's called a volatile, and they fuck you up real bad.
Why are you playing the volatile? Oh, at the beginning.
I know.
Yeah.
I've seen this fucker.
Yeah, they have shit eyesight. They only come out at night. Or, as you can see, darkness. They're really fucking... Yeah, bro, I was fucked up. Okay, I've been working at Food Lion for almost 9 months now. I've never called out. I've never been late, not once. And I called out a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
And you can ask Chris, the only reason I called out is because I had been up for 38 hours at that point. And then I would have had to work another 7. So, that shit didn't work. A bunch of CP boys. Let's not... Oh. What am I looking for? Find a white and green GRE cache. Where's computer parts? Surprise, surprise. That shit's stuck in my head now.
What?
That surprise, surprise song.
Oh.
This is not most of the game, by the way. This is just kind of the intro. Most of the game is running and, like, doing a lot of parkour. Volatile. I don't know where I'm going, bro. Oh, you're right fucking there. And so are you. Oh my god, 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 oh my god.
Nice to meet you. I'm Spyro.
Hi, Spyro. Now's really not the time. Little idiot can't look down, Chris. I'm literally surrounded by like 12 of them. Ah, he's literally in me! Stop it!
I swear.
Oh, here.
I'm trying to fix my visual shit, so you give me a second.
Why isn't that working? Oh no, idiot can phase through walls! Oh, that's how I do it. I can't... I think it's this button.
I might have to up my CPU. This game's eating it.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Matt, to give me a second. I'm about to restart my computer because I have to up my damn CPU.
Alright.
Because it's pulling.
Why can I not throw this bitch? Oh. I don't know if y'all heard that, but... Huh?
Might because I'm running 2 other games in the background, too.
Stop playing 2 games at once!
Fuck that. AFK. Fuck you.
Don't be a chicken, Edie.
What if the doctor sees us?
He won't.
We're the boy, by the way.
You have to catch us too. Come on.
Which I put back up to 5.2. It'd be no, you know, it'd be able to run no problem. I could
Yeah,
deal
it'll
with a
take a minute
60.
for me to get through this, I think.
Yeah. You gotta give me a second, you know, go back through my BIOS, so give me 1 minute.
You're good. I'll still be in the call. Oh, no.
I'll rejoin.
Huh?
I'll rejoin. I should be able to rejoin.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Alright, give me a minute.
Yep. MK, you're too fucking funny, bro. Oh no, idiot can phase through walls. Hiya! We got inhibitors, bitch. I'm glad.
I took the inhibitor.
Fantastic. Go back to the elevator.
Taking everything. What this fucking music? That was weird.
Hello? Hakon?
Hakon. Okay, that is how you say it. I'm gonna end up calling this dude Harkon. Like... Huh!
Hakon!
Hurry. I found the markers. Are you in one piece?
No, I'm dead.
You were gone a while. How are you feeling?
I'm infected, but good to go.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry about this.
Right, literally.
Sorry about what?
About that. On behalf of all its whores, bandits, and idiots, I christen you a citizen of Villador. Fuck. You're about to turn. Get into the light fast.
Bitch, what fucking light?
Run.
This game is so fluid, and I love it. Like, I'm playing it fuckingly right now. Like, ah! Fuck! Bro! I was in the middle of talking. That's not fucking nice. I was trying to compliment you, you big stinky fucking bitch. Fucking rude. How did you get out of here already? I was running. How did he get out here already? What the fuck?
That was close. Oh, what would you do without me, Pilgrim? Huh?
I never wanted to become a pilgrim. I just sort of fell
Welcome
in
back.
line. Roam the country
Bomb.
for another reason
Bomb.
entirely.
Bomb.
I'm looking for my
MK
sister.
says, so you're like a flower. If you spend too long in the dark, you become a zombie. Yep,
But
pretty
what will
much.
you do once you
Pretty
find
much.
your sister?
More like a fungus.
Literally. What will you do once you find your sister? I don't know yet.
Haven't thought about that.
Well, that's odd.
Wait, I have a sister?
There'll be time for that once I find her.
You get on my nerves.
You been
find her.
you ever been bumped in the head so hard you just fucking forget everything?
Well, I have a very specific.
Wait, what? I was just hung
But
upside down.
with a
I'm
specific plan.
blood rush. What's going on?
I'd like to live by the ocean.
Stupid.
You know, it's supposed to be easy.
Okay, I'm kind of just gonna skip this because he's just. We'll cover each other's asses, sure.
Okay, let's do it.
Who are you? What am I?
Awesome.
But no, it's literally you know, you put the mark, get the bracelet on. It makes you like freak out. You're about to turn, so you're running, and then I'm sitting there trying to compliment the game about how fluid it is, and then the big goddamn fucking bitch face volatile smacks in my face, scares the shit out of me.
To get to
Bitch.
Fisheye, we have to outsmart them. But I know when they change.
This is story. I'm sorry, I'm kind of skipping through it, but I kind of don't give a shit right now.
I don't give a
I
fuck.
just want my boyfriend in my game. Sorry. So much
Yeah, give me a
exposition.
second.
You'll need the. Take a look.
I'm trying to get everything running again.
Yeah.
I just went ahead and overclocked to 5.7 gigahertz. That way I know it's not the CPU.
Oh yeah, the fucking binoculars thing.
Yep.
Am I doing?
Make sure everything's stable.
You see the church? That's where the Howlers were after us. It's the center of the district.
I said mine because I was running 2 other games in the background, but I'm just
Yeah.
so me and you could play without interruption. I'm just gonna go ahead and shoot it through the roof.
I forgot about the marking thing,
Uh huh.
which I like.
Mhm.
You can find notice boards with missing people around the city. Maybe somehow.
Bro, we was literally kids whenever we got missing.
Yeah.
Alright,
yeah.
I'm done. You can join.
Uh,
Co-op mode! You have unlocked co-op mode. A way to experience game with others. Get in here, bitch!
I am working on it. Let's get everything running, so you gotta give me a second. And I know for a fact everything's fucking 100%. Oh, I don't have my frame counter up. There it goes. If you invite me one more time, I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. I'm hearing nothing but deafening fucking goddamn beeps.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't want to join you now.
I didn't know it was gonna make all the noise. Honestly, I thought it was like Xbox. Remember how it would do one and then it'd wait a minute and then it'd do another one? Why? I have this bitch on low. Why is it acting like I have it on high?
I know, that's why I was sitting there. That's the reason I have everything overclocked back. You know,
I was talking about my
overclock
heating
profile.
pad.
Oh.
But yeah.
Okay, why did I load in and go straight to a cutscene?
Oh, you're here?
You cannot join because you have different game data.
What the fuck does that mean?
Oh, probably because I didn't save. Remember, I ain't.
Well, then go in your game and get saved, bitch.
Hold on.
I like that the longer you hold the jump button is how long you actually try to jump. So if you do like short jumps, it can be short.
Telling everyone we should be getting ready for winter. You know, more people kill themselves than are killed by a virus these days. Guess they need some kind of purpose. Purpose? Well,
Okay, why can I not join you?
back off, kid.
Is you?
It's saying that we have different game data, and I don't understand what it means. There's nothing different. I just installed it.
Try to sign in with the invite.
You can't join the match because you have different game data. Hold on. I have an idea. This is why it's called testing.
Yeah, let me save. How do I save?
Because remember when I went to go load it and it told you if you save your game, you know, it has a different thing. You can't go back or something like that.
Yeah.
Remember? I wonder if it has anything to do with that.
Let me exit
Or
the
is it
game.
because I have all the DLCs? It shouldn't
No,
matter
I'm in
joining
base
your game.
game. We should be okay. Game, you can shut down now. Sorry guys.
Hold on, I'm sitting there. I just don't get what it's talking about. Cause I remember when I would go load save, it says this game's of a previous version. If you load blah 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 blah, remember?
Yeah.
That you can't go back or roll back. I don't know what the hell that even means, but
Roll out.
yeah, but it's gonna take a
Crushed.
minute to
So
figure out.
Hell yeah! Good for you. Spyro, that's really not nice. She just said good shit. You don't need to be telling her. Alright, oh, what?
What?
We've updated the way stamina works. Climbing doesn't consume stamina anymore.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
seen that.
So go ahead and try join now.
Hold on.
You're good.
Trying to see if. Right there's my save file. It's telling me I could roll back. I don't know what the hell it was talking about though.
I don't know why I can't. I don't know how to throw those.
Mods off. Online options.
Yeah, Spyro's very unimpressed, and that's just quite
Friends.
rude.
Okay, so. Okay, so everything.
Oh, it's left trigger.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Oh. I forgot to switch to save back. And y'all can't see. The fuck? Oh, there it is. Yeah, game. Woo. See if Chris is able to join in a minute.
I'm working on it. Give me a minute.
You know more people kill themselves than are killed by virals these days.
I spotted someone. Help!
He
Nope,
got mad
it ain't
because I
gonna
threw
let
a
me-
coin at him.
It ain't gonna let me join you.
It's not?
Nope.
Oh.
Your co-op session has ended. Please load one of your saves to continue. In single player mode. What?
And this is a fresh save, so...
Hold on. I'm going back to the main menu and see if I can load from there, 'cause it's telling me.
Yeah, just try to join the game from there, because it's findable through friends, so...
It's doing something.
Yeah, we're trying to fix it. I don't know why he can't join.
Nope.
Okay, sit down. Don't want you passing out on me. It must have noticed
Different
how
save
handsome you
data.
are and tried to pollinate you.
What do you mean different save data? The problem may be because we're using different game mods in your host. I have everything's disabled. I
I
have
didn't know
no
there was
mods.
community mods and stuff.
I'm about to say, oh, that's disabled. I have none. Go to the main menu and go to your thing and click on campaign and click the left stick to disable mods. You'll see at the bottom right. It's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Because I have it open to friends, so it's not that. Swear to God, every time we try to play something.
Yeah.
Alright, try.
Is your thing disabled?
Yeah. I was already on the menu.
You see what I'm saying about the bottom right?
Yeah, I already did it, yeah. That made me dizzy.
Because there's nothing going. Like I said, this is a fresh install of Windows 11 and fresh install of the game. And it won't let me.
What the fuck?
Yep.
Invite.
Hold on. Join me. Just see if you can join me. I'm just curious about something. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Incoming ad break.
I'll get there. I hate the way Steam updated that.
I just
Chat
don't get what's
thing.
going on. Yeah.
Your game appears to be using modified data. You can't join the game session as is, and your game don't match. I'm not using modified data.
So it's saying you have modified data.
I just installed it this morning.
Okay, exactly word for word. What does it say?
Your game appears to be using modified data. You can't join the game session as it's, and your game data don't match.
Mine just says unable to fucking join.
What the fuck is wrong with my...
Hold on. Hold on.
Good. Because I remember we did stuff, but that was the... this is a new save.
Well, they ain't got nothing to do with the damn save. It's the fact they're saying that the session is modified and it's not.
I don't even know how to do that.
Hey, give me a second. Go ahead and play. Like I said, just gotta give me a second. I'll figure it out. I know mine ain't. Cause I'm not gonna risk that. Nope. I didn't get randomly banned off shit. No problem. Nah.
Are you still in the game?
Yep, but I'm sitting here trying to figure out.
I'm gonna load up with our old save. And see.
We mean our old save.
Because I still have that old save from when you played that first time.
Alright, go ahead.
Version if you continue to cover the old.
It's got something to do with changing the save. Like, last time I went to go load it, so once you load the save, you know, you can't go back to old or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you load it up.
Yeah, give me a sec. Everybody avoid your eyes. This is later game stuff. This is 35 hours into the game.
Yeah, and you didn't get long ways into it either.
No.
You're only level 4.
Alright, go ahead.
Nope.
Really?
It literally just says you can't join the match because you have different game data.
Well, hang on.
Hold
It
on.
might be able to join yours.
Go ahead and try, but I'm still looking it up real quick because that makes
Substation
no
in the
sense.
play of your saves as continue the game. Yeah. What the fuck is going on? This is really annoying.
Oh, hold on.
I'm loading up the one I just started.
Oh, it's telling me to verify my files.
Should I do that too?
No, you just created yours. Remember, I clicked, drag, and dropped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah! Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Cause y'all gotta remember, he brought his saves in from where he did stuff.
Yep.
Whoa, why am I so fast?
You got mods going?
No.
You sure?
Not unless it's like in the cache or something. Let me look. Cause I've not fucked with it. The only thing that we did is whenever you messed with it that 2 years ago when we played.
Hold on, let me verify.
Mods off, yeah. My butt's starting to hurt. Always some kind of fucked up technical difficulty.
That's the reason I said we gotta get everything situated first.
I know.
Yeah, because I don't. This save, I had 2 separate saves. One of them's when I used the mods and everything on, and I have this save which I didn't use it. And the only reason I split them into 2, copy and pasted into 2, is just so I can goof around the other one.
Well, yeah.
I kept this one because if I go online, I'm not getting banned. To hell with everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the one that wasn't.
Alright, I'm sitting in it.
I'm verifying real quick.
You're good. In the meantime, what we can do, and what to wait while you're doing it, I know it's probably going to take a minute, is, if you guys want, we could do a Wordle. Real quick. My ear just fucking started ringing. Oh yeah, I did this earlier. I'll change generations again. We're just gonna do the first 3. Just while he does that, I always like to start with Vulpix. What do you mean partially correct for orange? Evolution stage 1. Not generation 1.
What are you talking about?
Pokemon. We're guessing a Pokemon.
I'm
So
not
based
even...
off of, it's not fire. It does have a second type. It's the first evolution. It is not fully evolved in the first evolution. It has orange in it. Ruins are its habitats, and it's not Generation 1s. So, this is the first thing that popped in my head. What do you mean it's partially correct that it's in the ruins, yet that one's great? That don't make no sense.
You might have to verify your files as well, because that's what I'm reading.
Okay. Just like in Steam?
Because if push come to shove, I could just roll a fucking New Game Plus.
That would work.
I don't want to because I was goofing around, but.
Oh, y'all see this? What am I meant to por favor?
The number one thing they say is see if you can check with connect to a random person. I'm gonna see if I can. If I can connect, then something on your end.
Oh well, then do that real quick while we're doing this.
That's what I'm doing.
So
which I just verified mine.
Partially psychic, fully evolved. Damn. Sometimes orange. That's partially psychic. Not okay, so it's third generation, which is the one that I know the least of out of the. You know what? We're going through the first two generations. I know fuck all about the third. Thank you, Mom.
Okay, I'm just going to join a random game.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Not fire. None of that. Fully evolved, no. Generation 1. Not orange, not fire. Dude, I thought I just fucking got that. I was about to be so excited. God damn it. Also, un momento. I have to plug up my light.
I just joined him, no problem.
So it's me. I'm the fucking
level
problem.
4. Yep, I was joining level 4, no problem. And he kicked me from the game. Fuck you. I was gonna leave anyway.
Fuck you, I wouldn't want to play with you anyway.
But yeah, okay, I'm gonna try to join another game.
Assholes.
In other words, I'm just joining very low level players. Here's a level 1.
Yeah.
If I could join.
Oh, that's literally right in front of y'all.
But yeah, make sure you verify your files because
Okay,
that seems to be a big issue for some. Instantly joined his game. Why is there so many volatiles?
Why am I this white? Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. There we go. Alright.
Well,
Nice to
I got
meet
kicked
you.
from that game.
I'm Spyro.
Stop getting kicked from shit, Chris.
He went down, and I just started shooting the fuck out with the assault rifle. Started shooting the volatiles. You go to properties and you go verify game files. But yeah, I'm joining other people's games, no problem.
I don't want to do that. How was y'all's day?
Alright, here's a level 7.
I just installed the game though, that's why I don't understand what the problem is.
I don't either, but like I said, I'm joining no fucking problem. Yep, I'm in this guy's game. Hey, what's up, dude? And I got kicked. Oh no, he didn't kick me. Yeah, I'm having no problem. I'm just gonna quit to the main menu. Yeah, I can join other people's games, no problem. So I don't know what's going on. Are you sure you far enough into it?
Yeah, they said after I did this, it was saying stuff about
How about say this save is legit, no mod, no nothing. That's how I'm like, I know for a fact. How much more you got to it's verified?
Oh my god, Chris, not very. I'm at 35. Hang on.
I'm just asking.
You're good.
Damn.
What's that called? Bro? Because I don't even remember what the fuck we did. Because I remember there were things that you dropped in the files, but Fuck me if I remember.
Oh hell, that might be the problem.
That's what
Your
I've been
hard
saying
drive
this
ain't
whole
been
fucking
wiped.
time. And there's a folder in my documents.
God damn it. Hold on.
I don't know shit about it. I'll turn my camera off. I'm still here, y'all. Got pencil? That's why I turned it off. I already told you.
That would explain it.
I just...
That's logs, that's not yours.
I didn't know, I was just clicking on shit.
Yeah, because I'm like, the save I'm using, literally, no problem.
Wobba Fett's just peeking out of nowhere. Tech something. Shit, who does it? Techland?
I believe yours still has the modified files in it. Mine doesn't.
Bitch.
Here, type in, okay, where you install mods. Dynamite 2, where you install mods. I know exactly where to look. Yep, I know it's a pack file.
Good.
I know that. See, that's why I've done it.
Oh, I saw that. I saw the data 3-pack. Y'all, we might have found it. You okay? Hello? Well, now I'm gonna feel bad. Ah! longer feel bad. No longer feel bad. No.
Well, he's not very nice. And they won.
Testing an extremely powerful Rattle Market. Did I really just say Rattle Market? Rattle Market.
Give me some bolts too, because you know.
Goddamn, what am I, you damn pimp daddy?
You give me a crossbow with no ammo, and how am I supposed to use it?
Beat him with it.
Ooh, a farm. Ooh. A super mutant farm. Y'all, I think we figured it out.
Give me some bolts too.
Alright. Y'all there? Y'all hookers there? Come to find out, it was one file from when me and Chris. Fuck! I did it again. God damn it. Back in the day, back in 2022, me and Chris modded this game and then never played it again. Somehow, even though I've deleted the game like 4 separate times, that fucking...
Because it's not a crucial file. In other words, it's not considered part of the game installation or uninstallation, so it's going to stay there unless you delete the folder.
Ain't that fucking wild? Y'all can hear me, right? Everybody can hear. We're great. We're good. We're Gucci. Okay.
Alright, now start the game again. I should be able to join you. And join you.
You should just
Fuck
be
me
able...
up when you're level 1. I'm joining.
Ah!
Let's see.
I gotta move this real quick. Cause that is so in my way. Y'all can still be good. Did you just join? Christopher joined 20 fucking minutes later.
Nice to meet you. I'm
That's what I say.
Spyro.
You said give me a minute to work the problem.
Hey! Hey!
What?
We'll close it. 25 minutes later. Oh. He got a glicky! Everyone, he's got a glicky! Ah!
Oh, it's not even the fun part.
How do I change my outfit?
You have to get, remember, pieces of armor and shit, pick it up. Where you at?
I gotta go to the bazaar.
Where you at?
I'm literally right in front of you.
Because remember, I can give you gear.
Yeah. I'm just gonna dismantle a bunch of shit because, like, I have so much stuff.
Because I don't have a thing like another automatic bow. Can you get that?
Remember, because you can only get the bow if you go that one way. Oh, I fucking love you.
Hold on. Let me use some arrows. I gotta remember how to do this on the fly.
Yeah.
Because the bow is your best weapon. I don't give a damn. It is.
By the way, at some point we should probably go to the store.
Why?
I need drinks.
Wait, why does it want me to craft? I have some. Hold on. Can I drop arrows? It's telling me to craft arrows. Hold on. I don't think I could drop arrows.
That's fine. I'll be able to make them eventually.
That's a powerful bow, just so you know. Oh, you got Glicky, I got this.
No, you got the Glicky. A Glicky is a gun.
I know, but look what I'm holding.
Oh, well, let's go.
This says 5,000 damage.
We don't have to be in a party, right? You can just see where I am.
Yeah. I mean, unless I visibly see you, yeah. What's going on down here?
Over here.
I don't know. Some dickhead knows. Oh.
No, no, no. Watch. Look, the zombie. Watch how far I throw him. Ready, laugh?
Yeah.
Yeet.
Damn. Ooh, I just got
Look,
hit.
yeet.
Someone just hit me.
Yeah, we got.
Oh.
Yeah, guess what a shotgun does? Don't you run. Don't you run from me.
How do I help him?
Fuck.
Chris, what the fuck?
Don't worry about it.
Seriously, how do we help him?
You shoot it down. Might have preoccupied. Shelby, look at me.
Over here.
Figured it out.
I know, but you can just come up here and do it.
Yeah, well, shut up. Anyway, let's go.
You want to play?
I just hear gunshots.
Watch out.
Christopher!
What am I doing?
I'm gonna have so many stream markers now.
What are they?
I'm literally watching in the distance, and Chris, I saw fucking bodies flying. Literally flying, floating. That word is floating in the air. I can't say that word because of my race.
Don't worry about it.
Let's go.
I'm solving the problem, okay? Fine, let me switch to something more quiet.
Well, I'm gonna go to fucking find Harkon.
Go ahead. I got
everyone we should
wipe
be
all these
ready
out,
for winter.
or they'll follow us. What the hell?
You're my living distraction.
Should've got survivor rescued.
Nope.
Can I get my reward?
Oh, MK, if you're still here, when do you get your Switch 2?
Shelby?
Christopher?
This is your game. Can you come back and collect the reward from him? It won't let me.
I don't even know where you are.
Are we not? Oh, can we get in a party? I'm trying to find you on the map. Oh.
Are you B?
That's not you. Yeah, I'm right on the fucking border of the next Houndfield. I'm right next to the windmill. Oh yeah, I'm B. I see you. Yeah. Go towards B. Go north.
Yeah, okay, that is you, yep.
Yeah, come here and collect the reward because it won't let me collect it.
Sun's about to go down.
I don't give a fuck.
No, get it because of the bells?
Yep. I see you slowly on your way.
Chris, shut up.
Just saying.
One thing I hate about streaming with you is whenever I go to mock you, you can see it later. What the fuck? Am I floating in air?
No, just stop. Just telling you to look at dark places.
I know.
Yeah, this. Yeah, collect the.
Nope.
You can't collect the reward from it?
Nope. Oh.
Now can we get the reward?
This bitch is take. There we go. Man, I can't even take the glicky from him. So I was doing my least favorite task. Lol, should I get it after October? Why so long from now? Or is it like a special pre-order or something? Okay, we're going back to the
why are you
bazaar.
fighting me? You motherfucker.
Can't wait till I can roll. Pokemon. Oh, that's why. That makes sense. I remembered you said something about a game, but I could not for the life of me remember which one. I'm really excited for that one. Chris hated Pokemon Arceus, but I fucking loved it. I loved it.
Ow.
Also, thank you guys for staying and watching ads. I know they're super annoying and I hate them, and if I could have an ad-free experience, I fucking would. But it is also kind of helping because I'm literally $5 away from getting a payout, and that shit would help a lot. So, whatever, I guess. But I also hate Twitch.
Remember to loot the bodies of the runners. I'm getting all kinds of shit.
Okay, well I'm at the place, so we can unlock shit, you know.
Yep.
Oh. Did I teleport you back to it?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry.
I don't give a fuck.
Fuck all of y'all. Honestly.
I guess that's still anyway.
Aiden, how's it been, kid? Got a taste for city life yet?
I've been here and there.
I'm at a merchant.
I know.
You know, the best parties always happen in the center. And that's where we're going.
I am happy you are pleased.
Oh yeah, I forgot it's pieces.
Incoming ad break.
Yeah.
This homie ain't got no shoes on?
I have a plan for how to get there.
No, you got shoes on.
Not in my inventory, I don't.
Near the main metro station.
I'm getting so tired of him making me go A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Shut up. I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming.
You're new here, aren't you? You'll see. This place is full.
Come on, I won't bite.
Oh, to talk to these guys, we'd have to be together. Don't really care right now.
I'm behind you.
Oh, my bad. That bar that's above the 3+ marks, top left, that bar, what is that? Is that my health?
I heard
Yeah.
this time the Carnage Hall tournament will be more
Yes, it is.
dream.
Ooh.
Oh.
I'm sorry, you got bounties and shit.
Yeah, we'll do them later. I just want to go through a little bit of the story a little bit. Because we have to go all the way to Pumpkin Farm.
A pumpkin farm?
The Peacekeepers closed off the passage to the city center to get their Hakon, and I had to find a way around the patrols. Yeah, Legends Arceus is fucking good. I haven't completed it yet because I can't beat Arceus. That fucking little bitch. Where are you?
We're out with a pistol. What?
Goddamn. Oh, there you are. Let's go.
Hey, can I say that's funny?
What?
Let's find a zombie real quick. Watch this.
About the only time I smile.
I don't have to waste any. Okay, right here, zombies, right? Don't laugh. Watch. This is how I can kill them.
They're literally disintegrating.
No, I'm stomping. I'm pulling them and
yep.
stomping their head in.
Yeah, I loved Arceus, but I'm worried Style might be more like Scarlet Violet, and I really did. Really? That's fair. That's very fair.
Welcome,
Hey, Feeweeb! How are you?
Oh, come on.
You did like Mega Victory Bell? Is that the one where Mega Victory Bell is like, it's like choking itself or something? Because that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Better than Mega, was it? What is that big one? Dragonite? Where he's got literal wings on his head now or something? Like, I swear to God, the fan-made stuff is 99% better all the time. Okay, I have to show y'all this because y'all fucking said this, and it's the funniest goddamn thing on the planet. Where's my phone? Think that someone has some kind of fetish. Oh, yeah. You like Meg? Well, you know what? If you like it, then hey, good for you. No, I need y'all to see this shit because this is the funniest fucking thing on the planet. I never really watched the anime. I know, as a 90s kid, I watched some of it. Chris, you already know what I'm about to do. Where is it? I forgot how much of a vibe Victory Bell is.
Oh, you doing that? Get back my goddamn car.
I know you can't really see it that good. But, and then there's the other one. Oh my god. I'm trying to get where you guys can see it a little bit. Maybe I can, like, shield it from this fucking thing. Anyway, it's Guzzlord. I'll post them in the Discord because this is fucking funny. Chris showed me that shit and I literally was sobbing. I was laughing so fucking hard. This is the first one that I just showed. And then this is the second. So if you're in my Discord, where the fuck is my links? Weeb, I don't know if you're in there. I can't remember. So you guys can see it better. Because I didn't know fucking Victory Bell did that shit. Why are you level 300? Christopher. Huh? They can't see it, but Chris is level 300.
Well, yeah, I'm a mastery level, yeah.
Go to show how much Chris has fucking played this game. The creature must be walked. Hey, enjoy walking the creature and be safe, my love. My dear. Where the fuck am I going? I don't even know anymore. Let's go.
Go to the yellow spot.
Jay-chan! Oh, I need to wiggle my mouse. Oh my god. I need to go grab my charger for my laptop, but...
Wait, who the hell's screaming for help?
Yeah, you heard that? I heard choking. Sorry, I'll back up a few inches. I'm coming. She's fucking singing. Screaming and eating James, a snippet of Driftbell City theme, and Guzzlord singing. Yep.
Where did you come from, handsome?
I heard you, singing.
Don't lie to Lola, sweet cheeks. Bet you thought someone was strangling a cat.
I need adult!
See this neck?
I feel uncomfortable and I want to kill her.
Usually, it's wrapped in the softest,
What'd you say?
rare of mink stones.
I feel uncomfortable, I want to kill her.
Lola
Me too.
was the grand dame
I'm going to kill her.
But until but how will Lola dazzle anyone? And you don't see mink scampering.
Oh, where is it?
Early.
Guess what I don't give a fuck about. I'm tired as fuck too. Hey! Good job! Congratulations.
I told you. I can't kill her.
Fuck! Fuck! Goddamn! Ugh. I have a job at Food Lion and I hate it. I love my coworkers, I love my customers, but it hurts a lot. Right. What the fuck? I'm just gonna...
No, they try to attack you.
No, I know. No, I was just gonna let,
I got you.
Panicking a little bit. Meanwhile, Chris is killing everybody and I'm just looting.
Don't worry about it.
Usual. She's literally stronger than a tree, bro. Goddamn, what are they called?
Always collect the
something NPCs. What are they called? I'm having a brain fart. Essential!
Oh. Yeah, sadly.
Can you protect me for like 2 seconds? I need to go get the fan from my room because I'm getting hot. So...
I mean, I have a gun, so probably.
I'm gonna turn my camera off. The floor is now yours, my love. Don't say something to get me mad.
Uh-huh. I have to heal you. Heal myself. Yeah. I bandage you and I inject myself. Woo! Drugs are bad, okay? Don't believe me? Ask him, Mom. If you don't believe her, ask your dad. Tell you how he does them all the time. Drugs is bad, okay? It's just completely bad. You just don't understand just how bad.
Okay, so y'all might hear, my fan. But we're gonna have to deal with it, okay? Because
No.
guess what? It's still the fucking south. And, oh, I sat on my heating pad. Oh my god. And you know, it gets a little fucking hot in here. So, everybody welcome the fan. The fan is here. It's
No,
my biggest
no
fan.
No fan.
It's my
I don't
biggest
care.
fan. Also, in case y'all haven't noticed, my face is a little slimmer. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm very proud of myself for it. Okay. I think that's the maximum amount of self-praise I can stomach for a hot minute. Let's go.
Hey, Shelby.
Huh?
Mine.
Ah! Chris!
Oh, shit!
Yeah, look what you did! That fucking thing
Shelby?
just scared me. What?
So many enemies! Down. I just blew them all up with a landmine. Oh, you missed it. There's like 12 of them down there and I just blew them all up. Oh, wait, no, one's alive. Shotgun. Anyway, now that they're all dead. Oh. I have to stealthily kill so they stop coming after me. Where you at, Shelby?
I'm up here watching you.
You didn't watch it? I blew up every fucking one of the enemies.
No,
down
because
here.
I wasn't there yet.
Hey.
Hey.
No,
Shut up.
I ain't hitting that tank. To hell with you. No, you're good. I'm just collecting.
Uh-huh.
What?
What?
You turned me loose. This is entirely your fault.
Yeah.
No, it's your fault.
Hey, Chris, this building's gay.
What?
The
Landmine?
building is gay.
Load up? Gotcha.
Chris, no.
Where you at? Blowing up the building.
Mm-mm. I love how people live by proxy of ice cream. Do I know what that is? Let's look. While we wait for him. Oh, let me not have that max level. Oh! Okay. I only know it because of memes. Like, straight up, ain't gonna lie to you, ain't gonna, you know. I only know that because memes. I know 90% of things because of memes.
Shelby.
Yes, sir.
Look at me.
I don't think I'd want to.
Look at me.
Alright. Where are you?
Back the way you came.
I'm standing on the fucking thing, Chris.
Okay, look to your left.
Oh. Hang on, how do I do... Oh.
What?
How do I do the thing? How do I use my binoculars?
You have to equip them and you hit the D-pad.
Okay, we're watching.
He wouldn't stop preaching. We said the building was gay, so...
Chris! Or only a subunit because they host a podcast. Oh, nice.
Whoop. Don't care.
So they covered it. Gotcha. See?
Wall running.
Look at the window. The building's gay. The building is a homosexual like me. I mean... If I'm just bi, does that...
Okay, I left my
Am I
mark.
still homosexual if I'm bisexual? Anyway. Who cares? Look, I know we're here for the story. He talks way too fucking much.
So
they sure think
Peacekeepers run the city. They're kind of dicks.
So you brought
the PK are you?
Wait.
Oh yeah, we have to do this at nighttime.
Why?
Because when supposedly the patrols are down, I remember this.
I don't want to do this. Chris, go do it for me.
There's a creature
Okay.
I haven't seen before.
Oh, I was literally joking, but okay.
Not a big one. extremely fast.
Probably a bolter. You can find some interesting stuff on them. But catching one requires serious hunting skills.
Serious hunting skills. I really hate him.
Is he literally talking with his lisp?
He's literally talking with a lisp.
Yeah, he's a very serious one.
Why
You gotta
are
be very
those-
careful.
You go do things.
Okay.
I don't like that the names are there.
Hey.
I could have had the ducks not have name tags this entire time and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm a little fucking upset about it. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
Nope, but I'm already down the fucking thing. Guess I'm waiting on you.
The ducks that are on the bottom of my screen when I play.
Why am I in the basement and you're not? I gotta wait for you.
Oh.
Ain't nothing a 12 gauge can't fix.
Yep. I'm so glad that they don't have the stamina for climbing.
Yeah, that is different.
That's from a cruiser. Oh, nice. That's a lot of lore you dumped on me. Where are you?
I'm climbing in the vents.
I'm your housekeeper. What you got in your house? What the fuck? Oh, I see now.
I don't give up.
Did you just shoot?
Fuck all these motherfuckers.
Please excuse me for a moment.
What you
My man
got
is
in
going
your
psycho.
house?
By the way, for those that don't understand, we're not supposed to have guns by this point. So, haven't got back into it, but I was huge on live during peak of course. Is this like K-pop stuff? J-pop? Is that what this is? Like, I assume that's what it is. I just want to make sure I know. Hey, you, fuck you. Get wrecked on, nerd, nerd, nerd. That took entirely too long to kill. That's kind of scary. Meanwhile, you're just shooting all of them.
What?
No, I'm not bitching.
Sounds like you are.
I'm literally just having to follow the sounds of Chris's killing.
Now I'm looting. You got time to catch up to me.
Do you want one of the apple things that I got from work yesterday?
Nah.
Thing? Japanese anime idol groups, but the VAs perform as their respective characters. Oh, that's cool!
What you got in your chest?
Nothing yet. Because you knocked me out of it, you big slut!
My fucking bad, damn.
I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. Y'all gotta understand, this is how me and him talk to each other, so like, don't be shocked.
Ooh, absolutely nothing. I'll take the aspirin. Anyway.
Nah, the aspirin's mine, bitch.
Open the door.
That's a magic word. I do that shit to kids at work. I'm a grocery store clerk. And the kids will like hand me something to ring up. And I'll be like, what do you say? And they'll just look at me. I say, you say thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Your bag literally says legendary night runner.
Leave a female to try to unlock a door.
Fuck you! Asshole.
Yep. What you got? Come here. Come here. Shh, 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 shh. Hey, runner. 12 gauge wins every time.
Oh, you missed one. You left your poor, defenseless girlfriend.
You're good. Oh, I'm not done killing yet.
Yeah, it's very, very Skyrim coded, yeah. The lockpicking mechanics. Also, I think I'm playing on easy as well. That doesn't help. Y'all know I don't really... Oh, I'm gonna have to play on the hardest... I don't give a shit. I'm here for this. I say I'm here for the story, and then I literally haven't been playing for the story. Burkon talks a lot. Go ahead, Mr.
What's
Kills It
in
All.
your house? Okay.
While you do
There's a
that, I'm
chest
gonna go
back there.
grab one of those drinks. I'm curious now. Don't let me die.
Oh yeah, don't.
Do you want one?
Oh, I guess. Hey, why are you trying to go to Shelby? Stop it. Get some help. Anyway.
I'm your housekeeper. What you got in your house? What you got up in them rooms?
Okay, y'all. So y'all want to know what happens when you broke as fuck? And okay, to preface this, and this is important for me to let you know. Shut the fuck up. I do not drink. I drink every great once in a hot while, right?
I found antibiotics.
Anyway, I rarely ever drink alcohol. For Twitch, I'm an adult. Fuck you. So, if you do DoorDash and you are delivering to someone, if their ID is expired, you cannot deliver it to them, right? So, my store, we cannot return alcohol under any circumstances, right? So the DoorDasher just didn't give a fuck and gave it to me and my boss. It's stop rattling the door. So it's Red's hard apple. It's stop it, Christopher. It's
I'm killing.
It's 5%. Wait, that's a gun?
Yes, I'm using a submachine gun.
Oh, I thought it literally sounds like a door's being rattled.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Ignore
But anyway,
the bodies.
while you do that, I want to give a... Because we can drink on this stuff, right? As long as we're... Children, don't drink. It's really not that good. It's really not. But I like apple stuff. It smells like beer.
Threw it at me. No shit!
It's supposed to be like apple, like cider. Ale with natural flavor and caramel. Ah, shit. This is beer. I thought this was like apple cider or something. Well. People pay for this shit?
Yep. No, it tastes about the same.
Ugh. That's really fucking gross.
You're not used to it, so it's going to be... I mean, it's alright.
Oh shit, I'm gonna fucking turn into a zombie. Oh my god.
You better hurry up.
I forgot about it. That was really bad. Y'all pay for this shit? Okay, I'm good. That's 5%, bro. I'm gonna be a little tipsy-dipsy. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Your head looks so big on your shoulders. This fucking... You literally look like Ludacris now. Come on.
What you got in your house?
No, literally.
There's a chest right here. You got a lockpick?
Oh. Oh.
Ah.
No, I said ope.
Oh. I didn't feel like lockpicking. There you go. I don't know why, I've always been good at it. Alright. That should be everything dead. I'm trying to figure out what is dragging my frames down.
You know, mine was doing that too a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know, but I know there's a one setting that does it, and I'm trying to figure out which one it is.
Your turn.
What do you mean?
Get your fucking hands off me. I love that little emote.
Hold on.
I know you
I'm trying to figure out what's dragging my fucking shit down.
Well, come and stay in the UV real quick.
Hack on. I got to the flare.
Look around. The technical tunnel to the main station should be well lit.
That could do it.
The guards upstairs. I'll chat them up while you get inside.
What? Where's UV? Oh.
It literally went out as you got here.
Ah! There's a door open right here. Never mind, door's blocked.
That's what I was waiting on.
Oh shit.
I got this.
His entire torso is a labia.
Pretty much.
And we're using anatomically correct words here.
Situation here. Hack on.
Do. Anyway. Do.
Yeah, I don't like Hakon. Fuck him.
What is dragging? I remember it's one setting that will drag your shit down. I can't remember which one it is. Try this. Let's see how this works.
Oh, scared me. Damn bitches. I hate whenever this bitch is on low and it's hot as fuck.
Where you at?
Come here.
Oh, box.
Hack on. I'm inside.
5 packs. Think about it, and I'll be right back.
I'm on the platform.
Open the airlock. I'll be there in a second.
We're both going the wrong way.
I'm just looking for people to kill.
Who's my homicidal little maniac?
Yep. This is my job. This is what I do.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Night night.
Yeah, we got a little fucked up.
Where did he come from?
He was wandering through the tunnels. Fucking bizarre riffraff.
More like a renegade spy.
Doesn't look like a renegade.
Oh, I'm a renegade. Get me out of these fucking damn things. I'll kill every one of you.
He's awake.
Yeah, y'all don't know who you... I'm not locked in with you. You're locked in with me. Well, you, but like, by extension, me.
What were you doing at our base?
Trying to fuck you.
I'm only trying to get to the city center.
The center.
I want some of that puss.
The tunnel's gonna be closed until you hand over Lucas's killers. Bizarre scum.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was being racist. Hold on.
Heard nothing, and you managed to forget about the ban on passage.
You throwing that bizarre word around a lot,
Maybe
ain't
we'll
you?
start
Right.
punishing you by cutting
Look
off
in the
your
mirror.
hands.
Look at your
That
buddy
would improve
behind you.
your memory, huh?
Chris.
I'm
What
sorry,
were
I
you
got fucking
doing 4 days
dyslexia.
ago?
I'm a pilgrim.
What? Who shot
4
one
days
where?
ago, I was 100 kilometers away.
Enough, Anderson. We need the truth. And you won't
Listen
get
to
it
the Jew.
coercion.
But Commander
Chris!
Lucas
Lucas
always
is
said...
dead.
Incoming address.
You read the reports?
That's right.
A pilgrim appeared in the bazaar yesterday. Looks like he's not lying.
It's kind of odd though that you're down here with a bunch of trains, but
Leave
you
us,
know,
Sergeant.
we'll just keep going.
Chris! Enough.
Just saying. They ain't
Enough.
got tickets. They don't have tickets. What are they doing? Getting free rides?
I swear to God.
Damn. You're the nicest you I've ever seen.
Stop it,
Where did you come
Chris. For fuck's sake.
From Crossdale River.
I feel like a new man.
It's actually more than 2,000.
Maybe I should be prejudiced against
There are no
everyone.
straight paths.
And you managed to make it so far away.
I
Impressive.
told her we're low like this because I love that. Adrian!
God damn.
What's it like out
I'm
there
Sylvester
these days?
Stallone. I'll play in here. I got hurt a little bit. All these are just
When
gay.
was the last time you were out of this?
About step my in.
Damn,
Don't
bro.
care. Don't care.
You banged your head, son. Look at that. Look at that.
Yep. Don't care. I think some of the bazaar may have appropriated it. What do I do?
Wait, what?
Why should I trust you or I can try? Talking about getting something from the bazaar people.
Just say I could try. I don't care. I'm going to kill him in the end.
So if I find that...
I think I know what's fucking killing the thing.
What?
The glow light streaks on lens flare.
I don't know what to do about that.
You have to go to the video to change it. I'm just testing things right now.
Thing hurts my butt.
The more you do, the more work.
I have a combat point.
What? You'd rather
I
run
can slide down the
home to your
steps.
mama?
Oh, well, let me slide down the steps. Ooh, bed's this way. What other toys can I pull out?
You know, citizen, I feel proud to be wearing this uniform.
I got combat point. I just got the drop kick.
Ooh. I forgot everything I had in my storage. Ooh.
What did you do?
I forgot everything I had in my storage.
Hack on. Are you there?
Aiden, buddy. Good you're alive.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it,
Have
you
a
kicked me out.
Caught in question.
Oh. I thought it said teleport me to you.
Meet me outside.
My bad.
Hold on.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all.
Ooh. I got the exotic levels.
Oh, I hate that.
I still have 99 of the exploding eggs. Remember the event? Yeah. That's really not a good thing.
You're bad.
Did.
I hate when we can't run.
What do you mean?
We can't run down here.
Wait, game needs to restart if you can change. What? My game just crashed.
That's stupid.
Okay. Yeah, it just crashed. Don't tell me it tried to auto turn ray tracing on. Are you kidding me?
Hello?
God bless you. You there?
Yeah.
I think it tried to turn ray tracing on. Yeah, it turned fucking ray tracing on.
It's not letting me do anything.
Yeah, it just... Okay. Oh, and see if I can rejoin you and it might let you. Wait, you should be level 2 by now.
I don't know. Well, if I can talk to Harkon. There we go.
Yeah, now my shit has ray tracing on.
Get down here.
Everything looks so fucked up. Oh, so I was in 4K. What the hell? I'm down here.
The fuck?
Hold on.
I probably have to restart the game.
No, hold on. What's it say to do? Where's the mission?
Talk to Harkon.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to exit through here. Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. I got a big brain, big brain.
You're not trying to wiggle your way in there.
I can't just teleport out, really. Wait a second. Try this. Alright, fast travel to me. Hold down the D-pad, just see what happens. See if it resets it. Going to kick me out of the game, I messed it up.
No, I was doing that before.
Try resting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Never mind. Just see.
Jeez, I miss my wife.
Now you got the back out. Oh, good.
Love that.
Yeah, just quit and load back up. Yep. I guess since it kicked me for some fucked up reason.
Some fucked up reason.
Yep. Germany games back up.
Yep.
Is it weird that my game's playing better with ray tracing?
A little bit.
So that must mean something's leaking. Memory leak.
Damn it. I forgot to bring snacks for patrol again.
This is no time to be out.
What the fuck?
Go back inside the terminal for your own safety, citizen.
Wait. He just yelled at me.
I can't see the fucking missions.
Hang on.
Journal.
The peacekeeper.
Hold on.
Are you shitting me? Now the thing's coming out up here.
What?
Now it says I have to come out this way.
I can't remember. I'm trying to figure out
It
what
bugged.
my game's
I don't know
on.
why I was saying to go down there. Come here.
I'm coming.
You must help us. Otherwise, there will be a rebellion. Help us in the investigation. Side by side. Tell me what you see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just walk outside, yeah.
10 minutes later.
I can craft things now.
Oh God.
I don't get. God damn it! Why is it? Oh yeah, good. You're first.
Tell me what you need.
So I can't do regular arrows, but I can do shock arrows.
You have to find the one where you buy regular arrows.
I don't know where.
I don't off the top of my head.
Step right up. Step right up. How can I serve you?
Well, that's new. You didn't used to be able to repair weapons last time we played, remember?
Yeah.
Good thing you had an extra.
And I noticed the guns no longer have durability.
You got a good eye.
Really?
Yep.
Aiden, come on. I'm on the roof next to the metro.
Don't forget, make my shop your...
Make my shop your baby.
Oh, he's selling a level 9 bow. You already have something better than that, though.
That rhymed.
Main stuff.
What?
Come for
That
the
rhymed.
station, stay for the show.
Oh, my bad. You know I could buy you armor and stuff, right?
Yeah, later.
Why is the game playing better with ray tracing on? What? I knew the game was lagging for no reason. Oh, where you going?
Talk to fucking bitch face McGee. All we do is go someplace, talk to him. Go place, talk to him.
I'm coming. Waiting for you, bitch.
Bitch.
Hi.
Asshole.
So, what
So, I suck my upper lip and I could taste the world right now.
I hate you.
Vader said he might let me through to the center.
It tastes like
If I
copper and a
help
little bit of asbestos mixed with
What are you
it.
supposed to help him with?
He wants
He's
me to
awful
find
fucking
Lucas's
nosy.
weapon, the Lazarus. Went missing from the crime scene. He believes finding it will help find the killer.
The Lazarus, huh? Fancy set of brass knuckles, right? I know a guy who trades stolen goods and other shit he gets from thieves.
A fence?
Part-time fence, full-time scammer, an artless one too.
Ooh, you pointing the finger.
If anyone in Philidor,
Right, knowing what we know.
Yeah.
This little bitch.
Hubert Kerbatos, also known as Half-Ass Hubie. Every day,
Not
he
half-ass
sets up shop
Hubie.
at the nearby windmill and waits
Not
for
a
people
Hubie.
selling booze.
I'm tired of hearing him.
I just slid down the roof for no reason.
Nice.
Where's Hubie? Don't worry, Shelby. I got it.
How did you get up there? Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you have the fucking grappling hook.
Coming, Hubie. Where's the boss over here? You see where I'm at?
Oh no.
Follow the arrow. Hey, where you?
Yes, I know, Chris. I'm trying to find a way over there because some of us don't have the grappling hook.
We try climbing.
Chris, if you don't shut the fuck up, there's a volatile over there, and I just missed and lost half of my health. Just shut up. You get on my fucking nerves.
I know it's your what am
I literally can't reach.
What do you mean you can't reach?
I mean I can't fucking reach, bitch.
I don't give a
fuck.
Fuck you, you fucking volatile motherfucking son of a bitch.
Cleaning the tub. I hate cleaning the tub. I hate cleaning the tub. Ah! Yeah, me too. I'm just gonna fucking run. Suck my dick.
Bring it on, motherfucker. You're seeing a sword?
Suck my dick. Suck my dick. SMD, motherfucker. I heard that. I would hire someone to come to my house just to... I didn't live so far. Okay, I'm up here, Chris. Come on.
Where you at?
Over here.
We're gonna go straight ahead. Oh, you're... I was trying to take you to a hidden area, but okay.
Okay, well, I didn't know.
I'm coming. Stay there.
Bitch, I hate you. I hate you, Uncle.
Get off of me. I didn't say you could touch me.
Only I can touch him.
Okay.
Hubert?
No, not me. I'm waiting for Hubie too.
Got him.
Oh, whatever he do.
Shouldn't you be chasing someone right now?
Yeah, sure.
Fuck it, we gotta go.
Hakon.
Oh.
He's running away.
Nah,
I got it.
Oh, wait a sec. I see him. Arso's running to the northeast. Faster, Aiden. You almost got
He's so fucking annoying.
Bitch, I am fast. What are you talking about?
I hate that I can't slide. Oh. Nobody saw that. I just had PTSD from fucking Mirror's Edge.
Fuck all y'all zombies.
Dang, the people who made Mirror's Edge. Literally? Oh, that's a little creepy, MK! What? What? What?
I'm hungry.
Shut the fuck up, fucking goddamn Spyro! Shut up!
What roof?
I'm mad.
Oh, that roof.
I hope you got him.
That's not good roof. That's the hospital roof.
I died, so.
Wait, how'd you die?
I left the mission area.
How are you, you son of a bitch?
I just want to talk.
My character's literally yelling at a dude that I'm nowhere even beginning to be near.
Oh no, there you go.
But that was funny, Chris. Damn, MK said, man, did the people who make Mirror's Edge make this? The second I made a Mirror's Edge joke.
Yep.
Don't hurt me.
I don't think it is, but...
About what? I haven't asked you anything yet.
I don't know anything about anything, I swear.
I swear!
Fence, hmm?
Got them off the roof.
No way.
Imagine that on your gravestone. Died of leaving the mission area. Literally.
Didn't follow mission parameter.
Oh, my head hurts.
Well, then I won't.
Know anything about the Lazarus?
Are you kidding me? Even if I'd been offered those brass knuckles, I would have refused. I'm not an idiot. That weapon is way too hot.
Then why did you run away?
Fucking damn.
Away from me.
With that kind of mange on your motherfucking head, I don't put much past you.
Literally.
Okay, I may have given people a reason to be mad, but I'll make things right. Soon. Eventually. Maybe.
Oh wow, it sounds like your coworkers.
How did you know the Lazarus is a set of brass knuckles, hmm? I didn't say that.
Come on. Everyone knew about Lucas's little love glove. He was always showing it off. If anyone thought I had him, they might also think I killed Lucas, which is bullshit.
Now that I agree with.
Yeah.
I told
You got a cooler between your legs, bitch. There ain't no way you killing a motherfucking thing.
Chris.
You might meet fucking damn. You might meet terminal velocity in a fucking minute off this goddamn roof. Exactly.
Her name is Maya. I met her in the tenement building at Meatpacking Square, near the old butcher.
Oh my God, Tom Cruise the fudgebacker.
I don't know anything else. Leave me alone. It overlooks some army barracks.
So annoying. I love you. You're so annoying.
Why am I annoying?
You're just annoying.
Stating the obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. We all know a little fudge backer every now and then. Come on now.
Hey, Hacker.
Anyway.
Hubert said someone tried to sell him
What?
the Lazarus.
What?
Do you know a
We're going in
buyer?
here.
No.
You ready?
Strange.
Wait, where's my
Yeah.
shotgun?
Thought I knew all the
Hold on.
women here.
I'm headed to
Oh,
Meatpacking
well.
Square.
Because volatiles are going to be in there.
It's a fucked up place.
Well, after this, we'll probably be done because my hip's hurting. So,
Started hurting again.
Yeah, I don't want to push it today.
It's all good.
But we can play tomorrow, like earlier in the morning, because I don't work till 2.
Let's do this. I don't give a fuck.
Hey, my laptop cut off. Great. Laptop. Wake up. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so I'm just going to be using throwing knives until I run into a real reason I need to use a shotgun. Which is right here. Get in there, GRK! What's in this room?
I don't even know where you are.
Hello? Down the stairs. Right here. Throwing knife. Throwing knife. Don't care. Don't care. Too many. Too many. Joe, would you say?
I'm literally not even surprised anymore. Missed one.
Why I got all of them, but I eliminated all of them. Ah, fuck you. Get out of my face. That's all of them. At least this floor. Remember, check everywhere. Anything can be sold. We got a problem. I forgot about this. Contaminated area. Where you at?
I got the inhibitors.
Where?
Inhibitors.
Come back. Where are you going?
I was doing shit. You told me to look everywhere. Oh.
Oh, right here. Come here. See, look. And
Oh, yeah.
remember, you go in there and you shit. Well, I got a 15-minute timer, so I can do it. Wait, how do I do that?
That was so anticlimactic.
Okay, I have to hold it. No. What I was trying to do is... Oh, God, this is gonna suck. Oh, wow, it went down to 4 minutes. Don't worry about it. I'm hacking it. Okay, there you go. Get the fuck out of there.
Now what?
He's ready to bust that door open, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I do the shoulder round. Okay. Alright, just make sure. Alright, now we can move on. Oh, let me make some more throwing daggers real quick. Okay, I have 130 now. Okay. I say I'm trying to be quiet, but if a volatile comes out, that's why I got 12 gauge.
Yeah.
You got it? Come on, girl, use that feminine strength. Come on now.
PMS Rage! Oh.
I got you. Do. Do.
Whatever.
What? You said to kill everything. Guess what I'm good at. You blocked my throat, just so you know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you clear out the area? I'm just going around killing. I'm not clearing nothing out yet. See, look, there's all kinds of things to open up. Because you need to collect whatever you can in the beginning.
I've been doing it.
Oh, and there's another room over here. Another contaminated room. Oh, I didn't go up top and click the inhibitor. How do I get back to the top? I know, but I was too busy. Hold on. I'm already back up here. Give me a second. Okay, because I already have that. I was making sure I already had that one. I'm pretty sure I have all of them. I don't know though. Alright, where you at?
I'm down here.
Wait, why am I not charging?
Yep, I need a Chris for that one.
I just brute forced the door open. Where you at?
I'm down here.
Where at? I'm at the elevators. We jumped down because there's a door right here. You bust open. There's another GRE thing.
Yeah, there's a GRE one down here.
Yeah, but how far down are you?
I was all the way down the whole way till there's like a...
Come back, girl. Damn.
Oh my god.
You just took the fuck off. Thank you. Come here. Yeah, you want to see something funny? You see this door right here in front of me that's locked? Yeah, I busted one of them. I think it's the red one. I could do it too. Watch. Yeah, see? The red ones I could just bust open brute force.
I swear.
Right here.
Hell yeah, sweatpants?
Did you check around for things or you just don't care?
Yeah, I've been checking stuff.
Oh, right here. Where you at? Okay. Got it. Ooh, orange clothing. It's a field mask.
That's a nurse shirt.
You know I could drop clothes for you, right? And help you with your defense.
Maybe later.
Okay. Okay, where are we going?
Down here.
Remember, you can use the little breathing thing to,
Yeah, I've had to use, like, 2.
Yeah, I have 15 minutes, so I'm good. I can break that door open. Move. Oh, no, I can't. Damn. Okay, I'm gonna get to work.
I fell, got hurt, and leveled up my parkour. Sounds about right.
I get everything?
Yep.
Oh, I can break this door, Shelby. Damn it! Wait. Yeah, lockpick medium. I should be able to break this door.
Oh, if you need a UV.
Oh no, I'm good. Okay, a chest in here. Where'd you go?
Lockpicking.
I just heard
I got
something.
it.
I just heard something.
What?
Gurgling.
Oh,
I don't
sorry,
see
back
anything
outside.
though. I don't see anything.
No.
Go back out there. There's 3 boxes out here. Don't go out yet. Where's a box? I'll get this one. There's a
Feedback.
contaminated room. Give me a second. Alright, there we go. Okay, and over here. See, I just heard it again. I know you heard it.
It's probably this.
Yeah, just put me in a fucking contaminated room. Nothing go wrong in here. And the rotten fucking lock don't want to fucking open. Yeah, nothing go wrong in here. Okay. Everything good?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're clear. Alright. Let me recharge. Something bad about having a big time limit. It takes longer to charge it back up.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, how you like my throwing daggers?
Yeah.
throw.
Oh.
Shelby, where you at?
Up here.
Incoming ad break.
I found a hidden GRE thing.
Oh. Where?
Go back to the entrance of the hospital. Oh, right here. Come here. Behind you. Unlock this door. See? The fuck? Fucking go ahead, you're good. I'm shutting the door because there's a bunch coming up on us.
Alright.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sergeant gloves.
Oh,
I don't know what it is. Yeah, just saying that you open that door. I think I killed them, but there was a few out there. Alright.
Oh,
I did kill him. I just spun a 1A and threw it and took off running.
Swear to God. Alright,
Don't judge me. Oh, how's your health?
I'm good. What does that sound?
I don't. Oh, that's the napalm shit. See, look. It's like radiation. If you step in it, it'll kill you.
No, it sounds like something's flying overhead.
Yeah, it's showing that napalm stuff. See, look,
Oh.
look over there, look over here. You'll see it on the
Yeah, I
ground.
know that.
Don't touch her.
Touch her and die.
I'm wicked as fuck with throwing daggers.
See that? Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Alright. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and back out, okay?
Give me a second. I have to collect this shit. Why is electricity keep popping off of me?
If you
Yeah,
electrify.
you see? Do you see this blue hag hunting ground right here?
Hang on. The what?
Come over here where I'm at.
Check out the
You
Panda
collect
Pet
the
Cafe to play with me.
that shit on the ground. That's how you get samples, and it's easier to upgrade shit. I do remember that. This right here.
I do not see you.
I don't see you either.
Where the fuck? Whatever,
Hey,
just show me when we get to the
right here,
door.
right there you are, right there you are, to your right. Jump down. Over here.
Oh.
Yeah, this part right here, look for these, because this is what gives you the most samples.
What am I supposed to be doing?
You're supposed to hold X on it and pick it up. Or you might not have got to that point yet, I just thought about that.
We'll do it tomorrow or something.
Alright.
Just because my leg's starting to hurt, so.
We got a bunch of, people.
Thanks for the cheer.
Can't kill him.
MK, thanks for the cheer!
I'm killing.
You goober.
MJ cheered, and I kill.
Something like that.
They only had resin on them. Cheap bastards.
So sweet.
Woo!
Yeah, I'll do all the level up and stuff tomorrow or whatever.
It's all good.
Chris and I are coordinating, she says.
Allegedly.
Ah! Shit, I'm not in game! Fuck
What?
you, dickhead.
Where you at?
Up here. Quiz, he touched me. Ooh,
Get
ow.
out of that. You had zero chance, fucker. I heard that. What the fuck was that?
What the fuck? What? I just fell in a hole.
Wow.
That was weird. Okay. Let me back out.
Why is there so many AI spawning right here?
I don't know, but I'm gonna back out.
1 second. I had to kill everybody.
You ready now?
Yeah, let me leave first. Alright, I'm leaving. Put the main menu. Alright, you're good. Yeah, for some reason, when it switched over to ray tracing, everything's staying steady. It's not jumping around or nothing. That doesn't make any sense.
Weird. But now our game fucking works.
Yeah.
The next time I play, it'll be a lot better. Alright, let's see who's streaming, because I don't even know.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
No, literally. My god, I cannot say this. Oh my god, here's this and this and this and this. Shut up. Melly Pop is. Oh, she's doing fucking. Oh, she's playing Subnautica. Oh my god. Yeah, we're gonna raid Melly Pop. She's the one that does that Batman laugh that I love so much. She's so funny. Hang on a second, let me get to her. She's playing Subnautica, which is like a huge fear of hers, which is so funny. So yeah, we're gonna go raid her. Thank you guys for hanging out. Tomorrow, I might try to stream in the morning or earlier in the day. I don't know.
Might.
You know, Discord, all that good stuff, the usual. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Allegedly.